I apologize if I don't stand directly behind the podium. I should get up and move. But that's how I move back and forth sometimes. We wanted to come together again, the Warren Police Department and the Attorney's Office, to make another announcement on another indictment from an older case that we've been able to pull together and pull close. I won't be discussing any details or anything concerning the case. I'm going to allow all that for our district attorney, George Hartwig, and allow him to come up and actually make a presentation to you. As part of this, for those of y'all here last time, you will have copies of some of the paperwork, and also for taking notes purposes and all that. He does have some of that prepared for you today, okay? This is concerning the case from a homicide at the Duck Express Saloon. Many of you won't even remember the Duck Express Saloon being here in Warner Robins, but it was here for quite some time. And the Duck Express during this time when the homicide took place, it had actually relocated, and it was at the intersection of North Houston and Alberta, which was the Zare Plaza, for those of us that also remember the Zare being over there. And at that time, this case was actually a few months before I started working at the police department. This case was in the beginning part of 1987, correct? 1987. So with that, I want our district attorney, George Hartwig, to come up and let him present this to you and give you information on that. Thank you.
I can appreciate the chief asking me to come down here. We're not going to get into a lot of details about the case, about the evidence that we have, but I can tell you that earlier today we presented evidence to the Houston County Grand Jury, and a true bill of indictment was handed down against Willie Lewis Winters. He has been indicted now for 2 counts of murder, 1 count of malice murder, 1 count of felony murder. Those offenses occurred on January the 10th of 1987 here in Warner Robins. The deceased in this case is Stephen, that's with a PH, Gary Jones. And I believe at the time of this incident, he was in the United States Air Force and was stationed here at Robins Air Force Base. Warner Robins police were called out to the location that the chief mentioned, the Duck Express Saloon. I believe it was 822 or 832 North Houston Road here in Warner Robins. And Mr. Stephen Jones died as a result of an incident that occurred at that location. I can tell you he died from gunshot wounds. Like I said, the case was taken before the grand jury earlier today, and evidence was provided to them, and this indictment was returned, charging Willie Winters with that homicide. I anticipate that in the not too distant future, he will be making his way to the Houston County Jail in Perry, where he'll be booked on these charges, and next step in the process obviously will be arraignment on this indictment. So with that, again, I'm not going to get into the details of exactly what happened out there, but I can tell you that we have been in touch with the family of Airman Jones. They were aware that this case was being looked at in recent months, over the past couple of years probably. It has been looked at by the Warner Robins Police Department in my office, and we have been in contact with the surviving family members earlier today, and let them know, to inform them what took place earlier today at the grand jury. So the family's aware of it. I can tell you that they are pleased that there's finally been a presentation to the grand jury and now an indictment handed down in this case. And the family members that my office spoke to are looking forward to this case being tried in Superior Court, and looking forward to hearing the evidence that we have in this case. I may be able to answer a couple of questions. I do have some copies of the indictment, which at this point is public record. I'd be happy to hand that out to you. But as far as any kind of facts or details or information about any of the witnesses or evidence that we have in the case, I'm not going to get into any detail. So,
Where is Willie Winters now?
he is currently incarcerated
Do you know where?
here in Georgia. I can tell you that, and I'm not going to get into a whole lot of detail about exactly where he is or what he's in for. But you're certainly welcome to go to the Georgia Department of Corrections site and look at that for yourself. And, you can find out some more information about that on the internet. We do know where he is. So.
This is the second decades-old case that you've cracked. Is this part of some cold case initiative, or is this just part of a job for you, or what?
Well, it's the credit here really needs to go to the Warren Office Police Department for reaching back and looking at these older cases from the 80s. There are several of them out there. Warren Office PD has really taken a lot of initiative to go back and to reassign older cases to current detectives on the department, many of whom weren't even here when some of these crimes occurred. The credit here really lies with Warren Office PD. I can tell you this particular case, shortly after I took office December of 2010, shortly after that, in early 2011, I received a phone call from Airman Stephen Jones's father, who lives out of state, contacted me and introduced himself on the phone and wanted to know if anybody was ever going to be prosecuted for the death of his son. And I had never heard of the case, didn't know anything about it. And I got with my investigators in the DA's office, which they got with Warren Office Police Department. They went back and got looking at this file and ultimately brought me a case that I felt comfortable taking before the grand jury, and that was done earlier today. So, I first heard about this case a few years ago shortly after taking office. So.
With that, let me say there are three names involved in this case specifically. The current detective that's assigned to the case is Detective Carter Gravitt. He's hard to see. He's the one over here in the shirt. I don't even know what color that is. I just don't even know how to describe it. It looks good on you. I was told it was coral. Coral? That's Detective Carter Gravitt. Carter is the current case detective that's assigned this case. There were two previous detectives that worked this case according to the record. One we discussed last time, which was Detective Jimmy Yoho. Jimmy Yoho was the case detective in a previous cold case that we done a news conference on a while back. The other one is Detective Andy Crashan. As I told you back then, Jimmy Yoho has since passed on, is no longer with us. Same stands true for Detective Andy Crashan. Andy Crashan has also passed on and is no longer with us. Both of those detectives aren't even here now to see cases they worked a lot of time on, put together, finally come and give them the truth. Those are the three names I'll make sure to get special recognition.
And let me just say, this really, it's been a long time, since this case occurred. The investigation has taken place off and on over a number of years. But really, as far as prosecution of this individual, this is just the beginning. And obviously, this is just an indictment. He is presumed to be innocent of these charges until such time as we present the evidence in court and the jury determines otherwise and finds him guilty. So, I want to make sure everybody understands that. There's a presumption of innocence, and that is on this individual. Only thing that's occurred at this point in time is that grand jury has heard just a relatively brief amount of evidence about this case, and obviously they have heard enough to believe that there's probable cause to refer these charges against him. But I'm in no way commenting or saying anything about his guilt in this case. He's presumed to be innocent. He'll stand that way and remain that way until we try this case in a courtroom here in Perry. So, and we'll leave it up to a jury of House County citizens.
I know you can't talk about the evidence specifically, but is there anything new that came about that would, you know, close the case now as opposed to?
Most of the information in this case, I believe that was brought to my office. Most of it was known to investigators, you know, for a long period of time, you know, way back to when this case, you know, first happened. This isn't one of these cases where, you know, the people involved in the incident are totally unknown, and, you know, 20, 30 years later, all of a sudden, a name comes up. You know, police had the names of people that we believe were involved in the incident way back when this happened. So, you know, sometimes different individuals looking at a case may bring a different perspective to it, or, you know, something may be looked at differently, but, you know, I'm not going to comment specifically on evidence, but I don't think there was anything, you know, new and earth-shattering that came to light, you know, in the last couple of years on the case.
So he was one of the first suspects that you all?
I will tell you, his name was, police were aware or believed very early on that he was at the location and was involved in the incident. So, you know, the police reports and information going way back when had this individual's name in there. So this isn't something that, you know, just came up.
Do you have an idea of when it may go to trial?
Being that we are in the early part of the summer, I would say the chances of us being able to get the case to trial this year are, you know, slim to none. I would say most likely we'd be looking at the trial probably sometime in the spring of next year. So hoping we get this case to trial sometime March or April of next year. If we can get it to trial earlier than that, then great. But it's typically hard to, you know, once somebody's been charged and to get through the arraignment and just the legal process, it, you know, much less than 9 months or a year. Any other questions? If not, I appreciate everybody coming, and like I said, I do have a copy of the indictment I'll be happy to give you.
Can you say whether they knew each other?
Don't want to comment on that.
Mayor, I appreciate you coming.
Thank you. Good to be here. Thank you for the work.
All right, thank you.
I certainly want to give you an opportunity if you'd like to speak. I know you're shy.
I'm pretty shy, but I like watching y'all do the work.
Thank you for being